Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanamchari Jamuna Tira Vanamchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanamchari Jamuna Tira Vanamchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaur Pimanam Devi. Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa. Pri Vrajagacharya Stotra Sri Vaishnava की नामचर्या श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की सब भक्त वृंद की हरि नाम संकीर्तन की ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की दानिकाय गौर प्रेमानंद All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksurandalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Sayalokasya Dhanyam Swastyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Sarabhyay Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyay Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyay Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to morning Bhagavatam class. We are still in chapter 10 of the first canto, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. Today we're doing, I believe, 23. Yes, 23. Sa va ayam yat padam atra surayo jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha pashanti bhakti utkalita malatmana nanu esha sattvam parimarshtum arhati Sava ayam yat padam atra surayo jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha pashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana Nandesha sattvam parimarstum arhati Sava ayam yat padam atra surayo Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha Pashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana Navesha sattvam parimarstum arhati Sava ayam yat padam atra surayo Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha Pashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana Navesha sattvam parimarstum arhati
Sava ayam tat yat padam atra surayo
Sava ayam yat padam atra surayo
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha
Pasyanti bhaktyukta lita malatmana
Pasyanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana
Nanvesha sattvam parimasrutam arhati
Navesha sattvam parimarstum arhati
Sava ayam yat padmatra suryo
Saeva yat padamatra surayo
Indriya nirjita मातरिश्वनः
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha
पश्यन्ति भक्त्युत्कलितामलात्मना
Vashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana
अन्वेषु सत्त्वं परिमुष्टमर्हति
Nandesha sattvam parimarshtumadhati Sava ayam yat padamatra surayo Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha Vashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana
Nanvesha sattvam
Parimarshtumadhati
Sava ayam yatma mandra suryo
Sava ayam yat prasurayo
Jitendriya nirjita matvarisnaha
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvanaha
Pasyanti bhakta yukta kalita malatmana
Pashanti bhaktyukkalita malatmana
Nanvesa sattva parimahtumharti
Nandesha sattvam parimarshtumarhati
Sava ayam yat padmatra suryo
Sava ayam yat padamatra surayo
Jitendriya jita matarishvana
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvana
Pashyanti bhakti yukta kalitatmalatmana
भक्ति युक्ता कलितामलात्मना
Nanvesha sattvam parimashtumarhati
अन्वेष सत्त्वं परिमार्ष्टुमर्हति
Saha
सहा
he
He
by
by
providence
providence
I am
I am
this
this
yet
yet
that which
that which
padam atra
padam atra
here is the same personality of Godhead Sri Krishna
Here is the same personality of Godhead Sri Krishna
Suryaha
Suryaha
great devotees
Great devotees
Gita Indriyaha
Jita Indriyaha
who have overcome
who have overcome
the influence of the senses
the influence of the senses
Nirjita
Nirjita
thoroughly controlled
totally controlled
Matarishvanaha
Matarishvanaha
life
life
Pashanti
Pashyanti
can see
can see
Bhakti
Bhakti
by dint of devotional service
by dint of devotional service
Utkalita
Utkalita
developed
developed
Amala Atmana
Atmana
those whose minds
those whose minds
are thoroughly cleansed
are thoroughly cleansed
Nanu Eshaha
Nanuvesha
certainly by this only
certainly by this only
Sattvam
Sattvam
existence
existence
Parimarshtum
Parimashtum
for purifying the mind completely
completely
Arhati
Arhati
deserve translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and a full control of life and the senses. And that is the only way to purify existence. Kindly repeat after me. Here is the same. Here is the same. Here is the same
Here is the same
Supreme Personality of Godhead
Supreme Personality of Godhead
whose transcendental form
whose transcendental form
is experienced
is experienced
by the great devotees
by the great devotees
who are completely cleansed
who are completely cleansed
of material consciousness
of material consciousness
by dint of
by dint of
rigid devotional service.
rigid devotional service.
and full control
and full control
of life
of life
and the senses.
and the senses.
And that is the only way
And that is the only way
to purify existence.
to purify existence.
Report. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, as it is. The Lord can be known by his real nature by dint of pure devotional service only. So it is stated here that only the great devotees of the Lord who are able to clear the mind of all material dust by rigid devotional service can experience the Lord as he is. Jitendriya means one who has full control over the senses. The senses are active parts of the body, and their activities cannot be stopped. The artificial means of the yogic process to make the senses inactive has proved to be abject failure, even in the case of great yogis like Vishwamitra Muni. Vishwamitra Muni controlled the senses by yogic trance, but when he happened to meet Menaka, a heavenly society woman, he became a victim of sex and the artificial way of controlling the senses failed. But in the case of a pure devotee, the senses are not at all artificially stopped from doing anything, but they are given different good engagements. When the senses are engaged in more attractive activities, there is no chance of their being attracted by any inferior engagements. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the senses can be controlled only by better engagements. That is underlined here in the sentence, or written in italics. Devotional service necessitates purifying the senses or engaging them in the activities of devotional service. Devotional service is not inaction. Anything done in the service of the Lord becomes at once purified of its material nature. The material conception is due to ignorance only. There is nothing beyond Vasudeva. The Vasudeva conception gradually develops in the heart of the learned after a prolonged acceleration of the receptive organs. But the process ends in the knowledge of accepting Vasudeva as all in all. In the case of devotional service, the very same method is accepted from the very beginning. And by the grace of the Lord, all factual knowledge becomes revealed in the heart of a devotee, due to dictation by the Lord from within. Therefore, controlling the senses by devotional service is the only and easiest means. Translation again. Here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. And that is the only way to purify existence. So these are the continuing prayers of the ladies in Hastinapura before the departure of Lord Krishna to Dwarka. So the word uh, in English is translated here rigid. Prabhupada translates in English at least rigid devotional service means very uh, very, we could say, serious practice of devotional service is, according to Bhagavad Gita, the only means by which one can attain that purified state. There's one very nice verse actually in the Bhagavatam, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Chayat Jnanam and Vairagya. That verse is exactly how naturally, automatically, when practicing Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, then these two results naturally and automatically in due course of time develop or appear means knowledge, transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge is not something that we simply acquire by reading books. Actual transcendental knowledge is actually revealed or given by Krishna. It's like, I'm sure we've all had the experience of reading, because basically we read the same books. You know, the Vedic literatures, we since time immemorial, those who are serious in practicing spiritual life, in particular devotional service, they read the Bhagavad Gita, they read the Srimad Bhagavatam, isn't it? We read the same books, we cultivate the same knowledge, we chant the same mantra, especially the main mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because as we become purified in consciousness, that knowledge, we read very often the same verse. Then one fine day we read the same verse and, oh, I didn't understand this aspect or this meaning. So these transcendental literatures are full of transcendental meaning, which can only be understood by purified consciousness, and that purified consciousness actually is facilitated or enabled or possible by the touch, by the mercy of Krishna. In so many places that is substantiated. Evam prasana manaso. Prasana manaso. What is meaning of prasana manaso? Sanskrit scholars, anyone? Manasa means the mind, and prasana. Huh?
Prasanna means happy.
Means happy.
Happy man.
Happy mind. Yes. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita also, Brahmabhuta prasanatma. Prasanatma means free, without, nasochati nakanchati. Happy mind is only possible if we are done with all kinds of hankering and lamentation. That is the common denomination, we could say, in the material world. Everyone is hankering for things they don't have and lamenting for things they have lost. Isn't it? Hankering and lamenting. So, evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha. it's actually possible to, or only possible to um, nicely practice devotional service when one is situated in mode of goodness. Uh, Therefore, we practice, follow different rules and regulations to actually gradually elevate ourselves to the mode of goodness, um, whereby we can nicely, with a peaceful mind, take up activities of devotional service. And then, the result of our taking up the practice of devotional service, evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam. That is when Krishna comes in the picture. Ah, Bhagavat tattva vijnanam, tattva. We were touching on this yesterday in our presentation on Dharma Shastri. Dharma is all about tattva. Spiritual life is all about realizing this tattva. Realizing means um, experiencing, and here it is being confirmed by these um, ladies who are expressing their thoughts and their feelings and their sentiments. That here is that personality Krishna who can only be uh, understood by those who are practicing rigid devotional service, isn't it? What is the meaning of rigid?
Bold. Firm.
Strong.
Firm.
Strong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Without any wavering. Without wavering. What does wavering mean?
Not shaking.
Missing Mangalarti. Yeah, I mean, too often. So rigid, nice way that Prabhupada is conveying the message. We have to become rigid in our practice of devotional service because sometimes people become too rigid. There's also an injunction actually um, that's in the nectar of instruction that we cannot be um, too lenient, nor should we be also overly rigid. Uh, so this is actually our this is the process. Number one, that only this practice of bhakti can bring us to that uh, full realization of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means that is also the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, and that is the message being conveyed throughout the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, so this bhakti, in some places, Prabhupada explains that most people think that bhakti is just sentiment, you know. Or when Shukadeva Goswami, after leaving home, uh, you know, a little bit like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he took sannyas, he was in a totally kind of like different mood. So Shukadeva Goswami, it is described before he arrived at that place where Parikshit Maharaj had decided to fast, having been cursed by that Brahmana boy. Um, it describes how Shukadeva Goswami, Shukadeva Goswami was being followed by children and women, you know, because he was strange actually, because he was naked, number one, and he was just like in his own. He was like what they call avadut
His own world.
in his own world, in the right world.
Yes.
It was not in our world, not in our material world. So, um, yes, um, not that we, well, in one sense, we need to become what is called oblivious. What is oblivious? Oblivious means not caring, uh, ultimately, not caring for the dualities of the material world, transcending ultimately the uh, threefold miseries of life, isn't it? Becoming fixed in the practice of devotional service means not being overly disturbed or not being at all disturbed by all of the all of what material nature and the material world brings in terms of distraction and discomforts, etc., like that. We were reading some few days back how the Pandavas, Arjuna in particular, what's the word that is describing that he has conquered sleep?
Yes.
Budakesh.
Budakesh.
Buddhist. Yes. So that's not at all easy to do,
Yes.
isn't it? The Goswamis in Vrindavan also have conquered sleep. Srila Prabhupada, I mean, it's not that one doesn't sleep at all, but one actually minimizes. Uh, I mean, to an extent that most people cannot even think of. I remember a few years ago, I was visiting in Indonesia and meeting one of our very nice, like Indian family, and they had invited me to be to spend 1 or 2 days in their home, and they didn't realize that devotees get up quite early, and when they heard, my God, it's like the middle of the night. Why do you get up in the middle of the night, like 3 o'clock or even 4 o'clock? So for ordinary people, this is like, especially in the Western country or in modern, in the Western world or in modern day society, getting up before 4 o'clock is like unthinkable for ordinary people. For devotees, it's meant to be, well, Prabhupada, he gave us that instruction that actually we must get up before 4 o'clock. Before 4 o'clock uh, is the standard actually for devotees to get up. And of course, how many hours one will sleep? Well, one should start from 4 o'clock in the morning and go back. Some people, most devotees need 6 hours of sleep. Uh, but if one can reduce that, that is desirable, but should not be done artificially. Some devotees may require 7 hours. So if you require 7 hours, then you have to start from 4 o'clock in the morning and go back 7 hours, because that's the time you should take rest, isn't it? So if somebody needs 7 hours of sleep, what time we should take rest?
Before 10.
Before it.
Haven't gone to, you're not very strong in mathematics. How do you go back
Three,
from
3, 2,
9 at 9
1,
9 o'clock.
1, 12,
from 12 to 4? How many hours?
4 hours.
Very good.
4 hours.
And before 12, how many?
9.
9 at 9
Yes,
o'clock we
yes.
sleep.
So
Then we get
if you need 7 hours of sleep, you have to go to bed at 9.
calculating 3 because
Otherwise, what happens is that in the Bhagavatam, it all happens. We know. Yeah. Whatever sleep you might have been missing, automatic comes in the
yes.
Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Yes.
So, uh, So there are, like in the Vedic culture, when people live normal life, means village life for the majority, automatically, um, because people are accustomed to taking rest, unless there's some big festival, that's different. But generally, ordinarily, people, they will take rest on the early side in village
Yes.
when television was not there and other distractions. Yeah,
Yes.
right? They would take rest early, and automatically they would rise early also,
Yes.
isn't it? So, uh, so in other words, the more we live according to what is recommended in the Shastra, then the more um, this natural way of living uh, will facilitate our adopting or developing the mode of goodness. The whole Vedic culture is meant for that purpose, and of course, beyond the mode of goodness. Mm. So this is again and again stressed and repeated that bhakti, of all the recommended uh, spiritual activities, the process of bhakti will naturally and automatically uh, give us these two results. Uh, what is the main problem in the material world for most people? They are lacking knowledge. They are in ignorance, number one. And because of that ignorance, they identify and become attached to all kinds of material situations. They become attached to family members, to especially to their body, um, let's say comfort, etc., etc. So detachment, and so the other point, which is most important here, unless Prabhupada is making reference to various verses without actually quoting the exact reference, but in the Bhagavad Gita, a very important instruction given by Krishna is the absolute necessity to develop a higher attraction or higher taste, isn't it? Without developing a higher taste, we will not be able to give up something that is lower. In other words, if somebody offers you $100, uh, you won't be attached to your $10. You'll take the $100, isn't it? Because because your $10 is in that $100 10 times.
Yes.
So bhakti is when we are properly developing or practicing bhakti, uh, gradually helps us to acquire that higher uh, taste. And higher taste actually means higher attraction, for which we gradually develop attachment. Uh, so the other point also is that we don't give up. And that's the meaning of this prayer that, you know, uh, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesh Shanyavadi Pasyachadi Satarini. So we are not advocating the cessation of activity. We're not denying the senses. Rather, we are learning to properly utilize our senses in relation to Krishna, in the service of Krishna, isn't it? So in this way, everything can be properly, Prabhupada used the very nice expression, dove-tailed. What is the meaning of dove-tailed? What's the Sanskrit word for dovetail? Dovetail means to properly utilize or direct. Uh, just like every day we have to eat, um, we have the natural attraction for eating, So um, when we become devotees, it's not that we give up eating, but we prepare the food in a particular manner, in a particular consciousness. We offer that food to the Lord and it becomes prasadam. So we honor. Actually, we don't eat, but we honor prasadam. We are meant to honor prasadam, knowing that as directly representing Krishna because he has taken that. You know. So we don't deny activities, uh, but we learn to perform activities in connection with Krishna, and therefore we um, we develop a purified consciousness. So in the whole purport, this is a line, yes, um, that is especially underlined, the line which is brought out as most important. The senses can be controlled only by
Engaging.
uh,
Higher taste.
by higher taste, yes, uh, better engagements, yeah, by better engagements. Hmm. So that is, in other words, every day, and every day as devotees, wherever we may be, this is what we are. This is what we are endeavoring to do. And if we are not uh, making that effort, then the what is it? The end result, we will not be able to develop this. Yeah. Okay. We'll go to the next one. Text 24. Sakyanugita Satkatho
Sava ayam sakya nukita.
Vedeshu Guyeshu Cha Guyavadibihi
Vedeshu guhyeshu guhyavadivi.
Yagat Atma Lilaya
Eka isho jagat atma lilaya.
Srija Chavatyati Na Tatra Sajjate.
Srijatyavadatti na tatra sajjate.
Oh, dear friends, here is that very personality of Godhead whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world and yet remains unaffected. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, all the Vedic literatures are glorifying the greatness of Lord Sri Krishna. Here it is confirmed in the Bhagavatam also. The Vedas are expanded by many branches and sub-branches by great devotees and empowered incarnations of the Lord, like Vyasa, Narada, Shukadeva Goswami, the Kumaras, Kapila, Prahlad, Janaka, Bali, and Jamaraj. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially, the confidential parts of his activities are described by the confidential devotee Shukadeva Goswami. In the Vedanta Sutras or Upanishads, there is only a hint of the confidential parts of his pastimes. In such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, the Lord has expressively been distinguished from the mundane conception of his existence. his identity being fully spiritual, his form, name, quality, and paraphernalia, etc., as Bhagavan, partially represented by, as Paramatma or impersonal Brahman. Mm. So here it is explaining how actually in many of find or describe the more we could say confidential nature of the Lord. Um, it's only in certain sections of the Vedic literatures that one. Actually, Jiva Goswami was mentioning in his Sandarbha, he was making the point, why is it, he was asking the point, why is it that in many of the Vedic literatures, uh, the stress is given on karma kanda. The stress is given on, okay, if you perform, for example, if we read every Ekadasi, there is description of the importance of this Ekadasi. Have you ever read? You know, there are
Yes, there is description on the calendar.
there are
And
detailed descriptions of
yes,
why this Ekadasi
yes,
is meant to be followed,
yes,
and actually, of course, each and every Ekadasi is glorified practically as the most important
yes,
Ekadasi.
yes, yes.
And it outlines what kind of benefits.
Benefits and so many things.
Yeah.
Like
J-
like Ekadashi,
yes.
he has the fruit of all Ekadashi in one Ekadashi.
Yes.
Yes, like
Yes. Um, so the question was being asked by Jiva Goswami, um, why is it that we find a lot of this in the Vedic literatures? Why is it that we find less the direct um, explanation or description of Krishna and his more, we could say, confidential nature or confidential pastimes? Just like the Bhagavatam has how many verses? Bhagavatam?
18,000.
Yes, 18,000 verses. How many are describing the confidential pastimes of Krishna? A small percentage.
Yes.
I didn't count them. I suppose one could count them, but in other words, it's only in the 10th canto that we find those confidential pastimes of the Lord. So, similarly, in all of the Vedic literatures, only in certain places can one um, come to know about the different confidential um, aspects of the Supreme Lord. So Srila Jiva Goswami was explaining that actually a lot of the descriptions are um, are there because the majority of people are very much on the bodily platform, and to get them by performing activities, even though they get some, let's say, material benefit by being promoted to heavenly planets, etc., is to get people at least to follow the injunctions of the Shastra, at least to perform pious activities. But the goal ultimately is to go beyond pious activities. The goal is ultimately to come to what is being described here, to um, perform bhakti or pure devotional service, which is the only process as underlined in these prayers to actually obtain the lotus feet of Krishna. Mm. And one of the verses, of course, in the Bhagavatam explains that actually, even if we have material desires, whether we have uh, many material desires, whether we have no material desires, whether we are um, desiring to become one with the absolute. That verse, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaradi trivena bhakti yogena. The process of bhakti or devotional service is a solution to all, regardless of one's mentality. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on this? Yes.
As explained in the previous verse, if one situated in the mode of goodness until unless he,
If one is situated in the mode of goodness.
he, he, he might not be practice rigid devotional service.
Okay, then.
So as we have material body, there are some difficulties with this material body, and we feel that I couldn't do today. I cannot do today. We will just postpone that for 1 hour, like that. So to overcome that tendency to postpone and how to handle that situation and what is the cause for that? Is that our food or is that our consciousness? Is that our mind?
In other words, what is causing us to delay?
Delay.
Because ultimately, Shastra uh, instructs or recommends that to get the full benefit, we must fully surrender. So, why do we delay in fully surrendering?
Yes.
Is what you're asking.
Yes.
Yes. Well, because we are still uh, conditioned, we are lacking um, uh, in what is called in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada uses the expression resolute determination. There's determination and resolute determination. There's devotional service and there's rigid devotional service, as we have read. So it means that all of us, and this can only be done by each individual jiva, isn't it? We have to become more serious in our application of what we hear, what we have heard, and what we know. And we know um, the specifics of what we should be doing, and so the more serious and more determined we are, then that what is it? That surrendering process will be taking place. Uh, so we can develop or increase our seriousness by being more. This is recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami by being more strict in following the prescriptions or directives that are given. In other words, by um, what is it? Strengthening our practices in sadhana. So sadhana is actually what is gradually bringing the conditioned soul to his position of no longer being conditioned, isn't it? Through sadhana, through uh, strong sadhana, and that is in your hands. Uh, Mm, yes. So we must hear on a regular basis and endeavor to put into practice what we are hearing, and then we will get the desired results.
Maharaj, in the Bhagavad Gita, we I read 4.11. Uh, Krishna reciprocates with us as the bhav of the devotees, as the devotee approaches him. But why Mahaprabhu bond us to do only one bhav, gopi bhav, das bhav, or virah bhav? Why we have not independence to do our own bhav, like Bhagavad Gita give independence?
Why Mahaprabhu is forcing us to do what?
Gopi bhav or virah bhav or
He's not forcing you to do anything.
no, matlab, he is telling that he do this bhav is the best bhav.
Well, we must know what are the different levels of transcendence, and uh, because some people advocate that um, no, all we have to do is that there is no hierarchy. Mahaprabhu has established, and Shastra describes also that when it comes to rasa, because it is in rasa that we develop various feelings or emotions or bhava, very different. For example, the Shantarasa is included in are all included in the other rasas. One can be fully happy, satisfied in serving in one particular rasa. The Mahaprabhu has simply uh, demonstrated uh, what is the highest uh, rasa, but it's up to each individual to to practice according to his particular nature. It's not that Mahaprabhu is forcing you.
But
He's
but
describing and showing by example what is the highest level of rasa.
but the devotees are saying that if you in this parampara you have to follow this bhava, this gopi bhava, this das bhava.
Well, it's not only in this parampara. By nature, you are das, whether you like it or not.
Yes, but the gopi bhava.
You don't have to follow Gopi Baba, but you should know that actually that is the the, the supermost expression as shown and demonstrated by Mahaprabhu, and as described also in all the Shastra. So if you want to serve the Lord in some other bhava, there's no problem. But we should know that this is the primary reason, and if one has an opportunity to develop or to come to that highest level, then why not accept it or why not take it? But if one is, it's like Arjuna, he's in a particular relationship with Krishna as friends. So we do have different natures, but there is definitely an emphasis in the parampara coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to invite the jivas to come to that particular platform, but that will vary. Uh, just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, Murari Gupta was a Ram Bhakta, and Mahaprabhu was teasing him that you should become a Krishna Bhakta. And then it was he became full of anxiety. Very good, and I cannot abandon Ram. And then Lord Chaitanya he praised him and glorified him. Oh, you are a real Ram Bhakta. You do not cannot abandon the service of Ram. So it's very much an individual decision for each devotee. Yeah. Okay. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai. His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.